You fought, you bled, you died. I have broken your defenders. The steel walls you thought eternal lie in ruin. Your skies once filled with banners of your false imperium burn in great pyres. The angels of death who swore to protect you now rot in the streets, their armor shattered and their skulls on pikes. They told you I was the enemy. They told you I was the destroyer. They lied. I am inevitable. I am proof of their weakness and of my strength. Bend the knee and you will live beneath my law. Stand against me and you will feed the pyres that will remake this world into something worthy of my warband. This world is mine.
Oh yeah, it's about time. I don't think I've felt this excited to do a video on a faction since the Admic video, so you'll probably hear a lot more excitement in my voice again. Or that's the autism talking, who knows. Also, you might realize something a little bit about the title. It's a bold claim, huh? Well, let's get into it. Hello, I am Diodium, the man in the broken tower. Dio for short, just don't expect me to start posing. Or do, it's your choice. I was trying to think of a name to actually give myself, or at least the person who runs this channel. I kind of wanted to just, for the sake of the bit, do what Midwest Magic Cleaning does and give myself a different name every single episode. Like Jingles the Pneumonia Clown or Ronnie James Frito. Not trying to sound schizophrenic, but there's a concept in many cultures of you wearing a mask. And I think it's also a thing in Eldar as well, but I might be wrong. There's the mask you show your friends, the mask you show your family, the mask you show to the one you love, and the mask that you never show to anybody. At least, if I'm remembering correctly. And those who watch every episode will know that Diodium is actually a model that I run in my army. So what came first, the man or me? Porque no los dos. Iron Warriors, my favorite Chaos faction in all of 40k, and I dare say, my favorite faction in all of Warhammer in general. One day, my child, you will get a video one day, I promise. But who are the Iron Warriors? Where are they from? And why are they such vicious cunts? To answer all of those, a word from this video's sponsor. Me, it's me. Subscribe. Do it. The Iron Warriors are the sons of the Primarch Perturabo, who I will occasionally be calling Perturabo by accident. I want to go ahead and just start off with him actually because he matters a lot for the Legion, arguably more than Vulcan. I love the Salamanders and I'm happy with how I made the video, however this is my shit. I discovered the Iron Warriors during 9th edition. I was getting tired of playing Advec and my Salamander's army were never fully done for several reasons, but I ended up taking a look at Chaos Marines. The Iron Warriors had the same ability as Salamanders during the time, which was reducing AP -1 and AP -2 down to AP nothing, or just by 1 AP, I don't remember. I'm not going to talk about the tabletop that much in this video since I know some of you don't care, and a little bit of that comes later when we talk about relics. A long story short, I saw this fucking thing, and my interest was piqued instantly. Demon engines are my favorite thing about Iron Warriors, and when I heard they buffed them, and at the time they were fun to play, I put my Imperial Knight I was working on the shelf for several months back onto the shelf and started to delve into Iron Warriors. I've mentioned Scutarius before, and it was a very okay book, but it was my first introduction to Iron Warriors when they jumped out of the warp and body slammed their ship into the Admech ship and sent it plummeting down to the planet, practically wiping out all life on the surface. This is my fucking faction. Once again, getting ahead of myself, I need to talk about Perturabo. Perturabo was born on Olympia. It's what it sounds like. It was Greco-Roman sci-fi planet. Planet doesn't matter. What matters is Perturabo. He was a very troubled person. First off, he saw the Eye of Terror whenever he closed his eyes or went to sleep, so that would fuck up literally anybody. But past that, he was incredibly smart and very arrogant about it. To him, he was the smartest person in the room, and there's an argument to be made that he was actually correct in this and still is. All Primarchs have an ability, psychic or not, and they're capable of doing something. Vulcan's, I believe, is literally that he was perpetual, that was his ability. Perturabo is able to look at something and immediately point out the flaws on it. That sounds really handy when you remember that he's the siege master of the Imperium, but then you realize that means he looks at everything as a failure. Everything could be better, it could be stronger. Fuck rebuilding it, we need to start from scratch. But he had a soft spot for civic projects, which is kind of funny. Remember how I made that joke in the Salamanders video about the plumber getting bored and working on the sewer system? Yeah, Perturabo is that plumber, and it was his jam. But his father, who raised him, was a tyrant, and saw Perturabo as a genius, so he forced him to build him engines of war, again, and again, and again, and again. There was almost never a moment to rest, and not that he really needed it physically, but mentally he did. He wanted to work on simple things that could be useful and not work on weapons all day long. Perturabo is a bastard at this point. He's petulant, he's ill-tempered, I don't say this lightly, and I don't know if this was ever the intention, but he's autistic. There's always underlying tones and messages in 40k writing about their characters. Nimazor Xandric is a very big one that I think about from time to time. He's a Necron that still believes he's flesh and blood, and if I remember correctly, the author's father was dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's at the time, and Xandric is a representation of that, either for the author to find a way to express himself or to grieve through what his father was suffering with. Now, understand me when saying Perturabo might be autistic. That doesn't excuse anything. This man has done some shit. What kind of shit, you asked? Do you know what decimation is? After Big E showed up and introduced Perturabo to his legion, he found them lacking. They had just failed a campaign recently, pretty miserably if I remember correctly, and Perturabo was not going to tolerate failure. The thing about that is that he only did this once. This is not saying that Perturabo is a good dude, but Angron would literally decimate his legion every single time they failed to take a planet under his arbitrary 24-hour time limit. I think that's what it was. Like I said, Perturabo does some shit, but he also endured a lot of shit too. We fast forward a bit, Perturabo is going off on the Great Crusade and dealing with backwater worlds, and there was never a glorious fight. He was passed up to construct the Imperial Palace for Dorne, and he ended up fighting the fucking Hrud. These guys, aside from looking disgusting, are able to manipulate time around them, meaning shooting them does literally nothing, because bolt rounds turn to dust when you fire at them. I think maybe a las cannon would work, because accelerating light just makes it go faster. I don't know. I don't know how any of this stuff works. The Iron Warriors never even truly beat them. The Hrud disappeared in some sort of temporal rift, and it messed up the entire legion as one last middle finger to them. Can you imagine how livid you, not even Perturabo, just you would be? This is like chasing a guy across the country to like tag him, and you run 3,000 miles, no vehicle, you have to track the bastard on your own for what probably takes a year, and by the time you reach him at the coastline, he just Fulton extracts like you're playing Metal Gear Solid 5 and a plane nabs him and sends him to Argentina. Wouldn't you be pissed? Really long, unrelatable tangent aside, Perturabo was never appreciated for what he could be, only for what he showed that he was good at. And that fucking sucks. This is kind of a theme with the Legion, and we'll talk about that more eventually. But Perturabo obviously goes to join on the traitor legions, as Horus knew how to manipulate the desire Perturabo had to feel appreciated and recognition. Maybe Horus was being genuine in some parts, but he was fully with Chaos at this point, and we were going full on into the Horus heresy. The Iron Warriors organized the drop site massacre and practically carried the entirety of the Siege of Terra on their backs. Perturabo was so petty that all he did was break the walls of the Imperial Palace, and he dipped out because the rest of the traitor legions had fallen so hard to Chaos that they were completely disorganized, and he knew better than anybody that the assault was lost. He left before Horus even died. Oh, also, Fulgrim 1000% served Peter Turbo to the Chaos Gods on the silver platter. Not to mention Forgebreaker, Varys Manus' old hammer, was definitely Chaos tainted when Horus gave it to him. I'm trying to go through Perturabo in a relatively fast fashion because he gets way more interesting in the future. But all you need to know for now is that he's petty. He lets his emotions get to him really easily, but he's also incredibly competent. What about his Legion? Pre-heresy and post-heresy, there's very little changes to some degree. Like, Perturabo was always put out on the worst assignments, zero glory or recognition was given to them, and he wasn't exactly the nicest dad. He shot a guy out of an airlock for failing to meet his insane expectations. Sound familiar? The Legion was as bitter as he was, and they were consumed by a sense of almost toxic masculinity. Let me explain. This isn't a political science video, and I'm not on a soapbox. I'm genuinely trying to explain. The Iron Warriors are bitter assholes. They're bitter assholes because they know they're the best people for the worst jobs. They will complain, be violent and callous to their fellow man, but they will get shit done. In some ways, a lot of men and women in jobs that demand a lot are incredibly stressful, but sometimes it's necessary for life to go on. They can find that relatable. I find that relatable. There is a cycle of generational trauma in the Iron Warriors, and it's obvious if you take a look at it for more than 5 seconds. I got interested in them because I saw big guns, demon engines, and they were able to shoot cultists fighting in melee because they don't care about human lives. After that, I found a legion that had been physically and mentally abused by their Primarch, who was mentally and physically abused by their fathers. And someone's probably gonna come with a brain dead level take and be like, how is Perturabo abused? Brother man, he was fighting the fucking Harud. You know who Perturabo is? Yes, I'm gonna make this reference. Perturabo is Conquest. He is capable of so much more, but no one trusted him to do it, and no one cared for him. The only person who ever saw or gave him a shred of kindness was his sister. And in the last moments he shared with her, she said he was no better than his father. He was a tyrant just like him. So Perturabo killed her, and that's an extreme response to be sure, but you know, after having to return to his home, finding that it rebelled against him in the Imperium and everybody there hated him, I kinda get it. Kinda. The legions are very much a reflection of their Primarch. Some are more clear than others. Iron Warriors, they are callous. Storm of Iron is one of my favorite books of all time. Not even 40k, just one of my favorite books of all time. And it shows better than I feel any of the Heresy ones did, but I'm fully ready to be told I'm wrong on this. In current 40k, there is a constant argument in the Iron Warriors community of whether or not the Legion is corrupted. Some art shows them being as messed up as anybody else and fully corrupted. There are excerpts from codexes and books that show that they sever chaos mutations and replace them with cybernetics because we hate chaos and haha Iron Within. And then there's Storm of Iron. The Night Lords trilogies, they go into this as well, talking about how the Legion has degraded and how chaos worship is a personal choice and those who worship the gods are weak, like Uzas. The thing about chaos is that you can claim that you're using the power, but that's not how it works. Chaos degrades everything it touches. It corrupts everything it sees. Only those who are pure of mind and strong of will cannot be tempted by it, and once you're tempted by it, it's over. Honsou in Storm of Iron is a great example of this in my opinion, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first war cry in the book isn't Iron Within, Iron Without. It's for the dark gods. The man gets possessed briefly and he calls it a blessing. He believes chaos is the true way for humanity to survive, the power to unite it and destroy all of their enemies like the Tyranids and the Necrons. And I know Honsou is a deep outlier when it comes to Iron Warriors. He made the Homunculaba and he's a half-breed with some Imperial Fish gene seed, but at the same time, he's the only person who got to talk shit to Perturabo and lived. I guess it's time to talk about that part because we're talking about Honsou now. It's genuinely incredibly interesting. For context, Honsou failed a campaign just utterly and he had to go back to Medjugorje and report. He was seeking Perturabo for one reason or another. I can't particularly remember. If I get any of this wrong, please understand Half-Breed was a limited run and it's still not on Audible, which is usually how I consume 40k media because they have a lot of audiobooks on it. Perturabo himself is less of a man and more of a mass of dead, pale flesh stuck in an armor that is more like a sarcophagus than it is plate that's keeping him alive. He's practically a living dreadnought and he looked at everything with an analytical eye. Not with judgment, not as if sneering, but more like gauging it. Honsou instantly started talking shit, to which the other Iron Warrior present was ready to bolt out of the room for whatever Perturabo was about to do to this man. Honsou said Perturabo was, in reality, useless. He hit on Medjugorje, he hadn't taken the fight to the enemy in over a millennia, and the legions were a scattered mess. Perturabo failed them. And you know what Perturabo fucking does? In the face of this disgusting half-breed talking this much shit to him, his father, his progenitor, his Primarch? Yes, Honsou, if you wanted to play some 40k. Perturabo, the man who would have killed a man for even talking back to him, who saw the Legion reduced by a tenth of its strength for being unfit for him, the man who orchestrated the deaths of his brothers and the destructions of worlds, asked Honsou if he wanted to play a game of Combat Patrol. Obviously, the stakes were that Perturabo was going to kill Honsou if he lost. Perturabo wanted to teach him a lesson. No, this isn't I'm gonna whoop your ass so you know you're wrong, but he actually tried to teach Honsou something. Apparently, this was a test that Perturabo had done with several other warsmiths. The Legion degraded. They have less than what they started out with 10,000 years ago. Every warsmith fought too cautiously, so much that they operated like night lords. They never took a fight that they didn't possess overwhelming numbers in, where they had a surefire chance of success without taking mild casualties. Honsou loses 4 rounds of this game until the last scenario is brought out. It was a sector-wide combat, a void war, and rather than defending, Honsou was forced to take the attacker's position. It looked impossible, but Perturabo told him it wasn't. He told him that it was a historical scenario and Perturabo had actually seen the victory. If he lost, Perturabo would kill him. Honsou got pissed and relented that this was an impossible fight, that no man could see victory. And rather than leaving him to his fate, Perturabo gave him advice. To quote, "You are half right, but you are losing because you are fighting like every other warsmith in my army. You are fighting in a way you think I want you to fight, but I want you to fight like you. Fight like Honsou, not like any other warsmith. Fight as though this is your one and only chance to humble every man who has doubted you, every warrior who has looked down on you. Not a singular being, but all of them. Fight like you." Perturabo just says that. He doesn't ask Honsou to be someone he wants him to be to meet his expectations. He wants him to fight like how he does. And you know what the craziest part of all that is? Perturabo admits that he's wrong. He admits that he let his emotions get the best of him and it made him lose, that he made mistakes. Eventually, Honsou fights like how he fights. He wins because Perturabo concedes defeat. It became apparent to Honsou that the scenario was the attack on Cadia. It was an extreme version of it, and he still won. Perturabo fucking congratulated him. So why the change? Why is he fine now? There's 2 theories for this, and the first one is probably more likely, and the second is genuinely terrifying. Perturabo pretty much stayed on Medringard for like the last 10,000 years. Some skirmishes here or there, like the Iron Cage. 10,000 years is a long time. No expectations were put on him. No conflicts required his attention. So that's a lot of time to self-reflect and to see what he did right and see what he did wrong and realize the cycle of abuse he was put through along with his legion. And he realized he could be better. He's still Perturabo, he'll still slaughter people, but he was far more patient and understanding. And then there's the second theory, and I'm not claiming this one, as it seems like some people agree with this based on how he acts in Half-Breed, but Perturabo does not show a lot of emotion. His soul was leaking or something when Fulgrim stabbed him, and when he was left weakened and dying, he was forced to pretty much offer up his soul to the gods of chaos. He is a demon prince now, there's no argument on that, but what changed is that it seems like he has almost no emotion, but he is far more understanding. He doesn't lack empathy. He was trying to egg Honsou on so he could actually succeed in the conflict, but maybe his analytical side made him see that Honsou was the best choice and that all calculations led to him being the warsmith he needed. A Perturabo without emotions is a Perturabo without weakness. He's the only Primarch that has no weakness. That is horrifying. In recent times, Perturabo and the Iron Warriors assisted Vastor during the whole Mark of Omens debacle, which I don't remember much of it, I'm gonna be honest. And now he seems like he's ready to take a more active role in the war. There's a lot of rumors for 40k. New Chaos Spikes is something that's been talked about for God knows how long, so I take what I say with a grain of salt right now. But Perturabo is coming. He'll be here soon, and when he is, the Iron Warriors are going to end up in the foreground for a time, but the Lord of Iron will come and will bring ruin to the galaxy. The Legion itself is rather fun if you like war crimes. A few things I can think about what they've done that makes them unique is the fact that they abuse human life. Back in older editions, there was a fun stratagem where you could shoot into melee that cultists were partaking in, and every one you rolled was a dead cultist. Another was the fact that they used them as human shields, literally grabbing a squad of cultists and putting them between themselves and the enemy. That's just the tabletop. We're not even talking about what happened in the books. In Storm of Iron, they captured Imperial guards as POWs, and they shoved 30 or so of them into a rhino and forced them to run out and towards an enemy fortress to test out its defenses. Some of you might be saying, well, why wouldn't the guard just stay in the rhino? Why would they run out? That's because there was a single Marine that was in there ready to kill anybody who didn't run out of the Rhino, and boy did he kill a lot of them. They captured a Tyranid hive ship, I forget the name of it, and tortured it. They literally tortured a ship the size of a country to brain death and injected it with the fucking Obliterator virus. This thing was used to carry Chaos Titans around. A tentacle would just held the Dies Irae and just dropped it onto a planet like some Lovecraftian horror. I said this earlier, but they also body slammed their void ship into another void ship because why not? The Iron Warriors are fun because they take joy in the cruelty they put on their enemies because there's no kill like overkill. Their relics are the most fun thing as well. Siegebreaker is a Thunderhammer that has a strike profile that does more damage than the las cannon in-game. This is older edition stuff, sadly, obviously. The Flesh Metal Exoskeleton was literally Necron living metal, and it made any damage you took worse, and every time you got attacked and survived, you regained health because it was stitching itself together like the T-1000 in Terminator 2. The Cranium Malovius was just a chaos corrupted servo skull that would literally screech scrap code and cause enemy machine spirits to literally set themselves on fire to avoid the pain that it caused. The Insidium was a series of bionics that were used to try and avoid warp mutations, and Chaos said fuck you, so anybody who had it installed was forcibly changed into a demon, and they were made tougher and stronger for it, but it was also just a warning of Chaos like, hey, you're with us, don't try to escape it. Spite Spitter was a Chaos corrupted combi bolter that did the exact same damage as a heavy bolter and had the armor penetration of a las cannon. And my favorite relic in all of Chaos, I miss it every single day, was the Techno Venomous Mecha Tendrils. You healed a demon engine for a flat amount of health rather than needing to roll a d3, but any attacks you made with the Mecha Tendrils did mortal wounds on a hit. This was back when you could allocate your attack stat to any and all weapons, and Mecha Tendrils had 4 extra attacks, so Warpsmith in melee would just do 9 mortal wounds for basically free. I have my Warpsmith Bacillon charge into an Impulsor, tear it apart with the tendrils, and then mop up the Marines that hopped outside. It was such a stupid relic, and Warpsmiths have no invuln, so they do shit in melee, but it made them such a dangerous thing to fight and caught everyone by surprise. I'm gonna charge your Forge Fiend with Morven Vol. Oh, you're gonna heroic intervene with your Warpsmith? Oh, okay. Oh, you attack first, right, sure, because that's how combat works. What the fuck do you mean he did 9 mortal wounds? It's such a shitter way to play a Warpsmith, and it was my favorite way to just Rorschach somebody who made it into my backlines and tear them asunder. The Iron Warriors are so much fun because they just keep trying to find more ways to make more war crimes and turn the Geneva Convention into a speedrun category. They're the total opposite of the Salamanders, and they are probably my favorite faction in all of 40k. So why do I like them so much outside of just like tabletop stuff? Like, out of all the factions, why them? This next part is going to sound like a manifesto, and I promise it's not as serious as I make it sound, but it just explains why I personally love them as a faction after getting to know them more. Have you ever felt underappreciated? Not like you deserve more, that you were passed up for opportunities given to others, nor you are flat out ignored for all the contributions you give. You don't want praise, you don't want money. A thank you would literally be all you needed. It's not like you can let someone else do the job for you you're thanklessly already doing. Maybe it's too complex, maybe it's dangerous. Most simple things on paper could end up with someone getting hurt or losing a limb or dying, or something that gets taken for granted when ignored spells disaster the moment it's ignored. But you're there. You can do it. You've been doing it. You do it better than anyone else can, but that doesn't stop it from sucking, from how soul draining or backbreaking it could be. So you just have to keep pushing forward. Past the suffering, the ignorance of others, you will never be thanked, but you get it done. That's why I like the Iron Warriors. They endure abuse, they suffer for the sake of a job well done, and that job is well done. Perturabo realizes his legion is failing, and he understands it's time to act, not like how he did under the Emperor though. A lot of toxic masculinity stems from psychological and physical abuse from a young man's father or father figure. It's something that has just plagued those who could have been good men. Sometimes someone makes it out and becomes a better person, but I have seen people who I thought I looked up to and reveal themselves to be utter scumbags. And I don't just mean people with like a mild kind of angry disposition. I'm talking about heavy alcohol abuse, child abuse, stealing, lying, and living with just the uttermost amounts of hate. For a lot of people, it'd be too late, but Perturabo doesn't think so. Even when he sees Honsou, a warrior who shares the gene seed with the man he hates the most, he treats him like a son and even favors him. He wants to see him succeed where he failed. Perturabo is not his father, and he proves that, not to anyone else but himself. That is why I like this legion. The title of the video is a lie. The Iron Warriors are not innocent. They call humans flesh. They will kill anybody who fails them. And even when it came to more sentimental escapades like the Warsmith and Iron Within, he still murdered his way through anybody who stood before him. There is no care in the Legion, and perhaps there ever will be. For 10,000 years, the Iron Warriors were cold, cruel, and sought to destroy the Imperium even if it meant at the cost of their own degradation. Their own height doesn't matter anymore. It is a Legion that has been battered and pushed around for too long, and they will see the galaxy burned. Not because they can't control it for themselves, but because fuck you. They will achieve it through crushing industry. Every offensive will be calculated like a stock exchange, and any man and woman capable of fabrication or combat will be used and ground to dust until they are replaced time and time again. There is no measure that won't be considered when taking out the enemy. Virus bombs, clandestine operations, siege warfare on an unprecedented scale. They are not a warband. They are the same Legion that the Imperium abused during the Great Crusade, and they have come to bring their weapons, their men, and their skill to bear against those who profited all 10,000 years ago. Why? Because weakness is a choice. Thanks for listening. This is Post Me again, coming to say that the channel has reached 1,000 subscribers. I made a post about it a few days ago, and we're still climbing well after we hit the milestone, and thank you, genuinely. I can't formulate words to describe how ecstatic I am that people are actually watching this channel. The anime video I will always consider an anomaly, but that's an anomaly that I'm going to be thankful for. Like I said, I never expect anyone to stay around. I don't consider the content I make to be worth someone's time, but everybody keeps telling me otherwise, so something might be going right. I thought about talking about my own Chaos Warband, since that's where the name Diodium comes from, but maybe I'll save it for whenever I talk about homebrew stuff. Right now, they're the main villains of my Wrath and Glory campaign, and I expect it to be a fun disaster. I wanted to celebrate this milestone by actually asking you guys for something. What do you want to see on the channel? I've gotten requests for Dark Angels and Iron Hands, and eventually I'll get around to those. I've gotten book recommendations and music channels recommended to me as well, so I want to ask, what else should I look at? And if you have a question, please ask me, genuinely. I try to answer every question that I see. Sometimes I don't have an answer, or sometimes I don't have an answer that I feel like would be good enough, but please ask me anything. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Next week, we're going to finally be talking about Xenos. Till then, I've been Diodium of the Broken Tower. See you guys later.